Good evening, everyone. I hope that everyone can hear me. Thank you for being here with us tonight. What I will do is I will actually give everyone maybe a couple more minutes and see if we can have others join before we get started. Bienvenidos y buenas noches a los que nos pudieron juntar con nosotros esta noche. Vamos a tener en traducción el día de hoy en español. Si nos hace favor, si ocupa la traducción en español, abajo de su pantalla va a haber un botón a la mano derecha que dice More, que quiere decir más. Son como tres puntitos y los selecciona ahí puede poner traducción y directamente los van a llevar a otro cuarto donde la señorita Basti nos va a dar, nos va a poder traducir en español. Si necesitan algún tipo de ayuda y no saben cómo hacerlo, nada más pónganos un comentario en el chat y de ahí podemos tratar de ayudarle también. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for that. I was just translating on how we would be able to hear our presentation in Spanish. So welcome again to our transition to high school presentation this evening. I'm very happy that you were all able to join us. Some housekeeping rules before I begin. If you have any questions, what we will do is we'll answer most of the questions towards the end of the presentation. So if there's anything that comes up, if you can please put it in the chat, and then we will, towards the end of the meeting, once we're all done with the presentation, then we can answer the questions if we haven't been able to answer them during the presentation. Awesome. Let's see if I can get my presentation to work. There we go. So for our agenda today, move some of my screens around. We will go over what the transition timeline looks like, the big picture, which is high school and beyond, and then key responsibilities. Key roles and then resources that we have available for families and for students. Some quick introductions. So my name is Nancy Molina, and I work in our family engagement office at the district. I support all of our families and community through our community assistant position at each school site. I've been with PUSD for, I think, 6 years now. And I have two littles, one that goes to Jackson Elementary and one that attends our preschool program at Webster. And then I will go ahead and let my colleague, Jasmine, introduce herself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine Harris. I am the Senior Community Advocate for the Family and Community Engagement Office, and my role mainly supports all of the schools as well as the parent groups at the schools. So thank you for being here tonight.
All right, and then we have our lovely presenter, Miss Renee Cruz.
Hey everyone, I'm Renee Cruz. I've actually transitioned to full-time academic counselor, so I once held the A through G position. Now I am full-time at John Muir High School.
Congratulations. And then, of course, our lovely partner, Miss Susan Schwartz.
Hi, everybody. I am here from Pasadena Education Network and have with us tonight a few high school parents to share their perspectives when we get to that part of the program.
Thank you, everyone. So I'm just going to go ahead and translate translate in Spanish really quickly for those that are joining us late. So, bienvenidos si apenas acabaron de llegar. Se ocupan traducción. Si van abajo de su pantalla, tienen tres puntitos a la mano derecha que quizás diga more, que quiere decir más. Si oprime ese botón, ahí va a poder dar interpretación o traducción a español y directamente los van a llevar a otro cuarto donde la señorita Basti nos va a ayudar a traducir. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Renee?
Sorry, I didn't realize we were already on the fourth slide. Okay, so just to give you like kind of an outline or a timeline of what to expect. So in today's presentation, we are going to go over the high school options, what happens for eighth graders in their spring semester, and then what a typical fall looks like, a fall semester looks like for our ninth graders once they transition. So there are four great options within PUSD. Like I said earlier, I currently work for John Muir High School. We are a wall-to-wall academy, so that is something to keep in mind. All students will be placed in an academy. We do have several academies there that students can participate in. The first being the Arts Academy, AEM, so Arts, Entertainment, and Media Academy, our Business and Entrepreneurship Academy, and then our Engineering and Environmental Science Academy. Another great thing about John Muir is that we do have the early college magnet component. So students will be able to take dual enrollment classes through PCC, meaning they'll be able to take college level classes during their 8-period schedule. I believe the other school that's starting to integrate PCC classes into their schedule, their daily schedule, is PHS, and then possibly Blair as well. I'm not sure about Marshall. Our second high school is Blair High School. They do have a couple of special programs. If students are looking to go internationally to like colleges or universities that are outside of the United States, you may want to consider the IB program at Blair that specifically tailors the high school coursework to meet the standards of the international universities. So that's something that you might want to consider. They also have the Health Academy, the Armenian Academy, and then our Spanish dual language program. So if students are newcomers to the United States and their primary language is Spanish, then Blair might be something that you may also want to consider. Our third high school is Marshall. They do have the Academy of Creative Industries and the AP Capstone, and then PHS is not wall to wall, but they do offer several academies. They offer the App Academy, so computer applications. If your student is gearing towards like computer science or really math based, if they're taking advanced levels of math in middle school, you may want to consider that program as well. They also have the Math Academy according to the PHS PTSA president. So that may be something that you want to consider. They also have the Creative Arts, Media, and Design, or CAMAD as it's called, Law Public Service, and then the Mandarin Dual Language program as well. So things to consider for your eighth grader this spring. I know all high schools have their upcoming middle school nights where parents are able to come onto campus and learn more about each high school's program as well as what they offer. I highly recommend that you attend the middle school night if the high schools are having them, because this is a really good place for you to ask your questions. It's a great place to see if this is the fit for your student, right? Not all high schools are the same, and so you do have to consider that when you are shopping for high schools. And then just a couple of nights that are propped up on this PowerPoint. So our eighth grade family orientation is going to be Wednesday, April 2nd in our auditorium. It's set up so that you guys have information in the auditorium, and then you'll be able to kind of like shop around and look at the programs that we have there as well. And then for Marshall, they have the middle school night, which is happening on Thursday, May 1st. That is a tentative date, so just keep your eyes out. I know a lot of our high schools like to post on our social media pages, so that may be one way that you can get that information as well. It is important to have those transitional IEP meetings, especially if your child has an IEP. This is where parents are going to be able to ask questions about what the IEP looks like, as far as what's going to transition over to the high school setting. They connect with the high school counselors as well, or at least there's an opportunity for you guys to connect with and make those introductions so that the transition is a little bit easier for those students. And then I highly, highly, highly recommend these school tours. I know John Muir does them at least once a month. During those tours, they give you an overview of what each high school has to offer. But also, again, you get to see what a typical day is like for the high school students. At least, again, I can only speak for John Muir, but at least at John Muir, you are actually interacting with students during nutrition. We have a student panel that comes out and talks about their experiences and what they've liked, what they don't like, right, about their high school experiences. Our kiddos are very honest and open about, their time at John Muir High School. And then you also get to see the different academies like in action. So I highly recommend that you check out a school tour, make your like reservation for them because I know they do get filled up.
Sorry, Renee. I'm just gonna make 2 points of clarification because I
Mhm.
know this was something that also happened last year when we did our presentation. So, um, all high schools might offer some form or another of like a middle school night. The information that we're providing tonight is based on dates that we were able to gather, or that maybe some of the high schools had already had dates established for. I know Blair has something that they have for families. They just didn't have a date to be able to give us. And as you can see, Marshall's is also tentative because it wasn't a for sure. So I just want to make sure I point that out. We do update our social media and then the calendar that family engagement manages, to provide a lot of these events so that families have a place where they can go and look at up-to-date information if we're able, if the school site it shares it with us. So thank you.
So if you have the opportunity to take a picture of this or a screenshot of this, I highly recommend just so that you are aware of when the high schools are coming out to each of the middle school programs. It's a little different with Blair and Marshall just because their middle schools are connected to their high schools. So for those schools, please reach out to those counselors or reach out to the counselors of your potential high school, right? If you want to go to PHS or John Muir. That way we can set up something individually for you guys. And we're, willing to meet with you guys to go over what our programs are, what our potential classes might be for those students. But these are the tentative dates, so it's pretty much the second to third week of April that will be out there. The earliest we're going out there is starting on the 16th, and we'll be all the way out there up until the 28th. We do have makeup days. If students are absent for whatever reason, we will be out there probably end of April, sometimes maybe even May, just to make sure that the students are meeting with the counselor, getting their questions asked, and then creating a potential schedule for ninth grade. I do want to emphasize that during this time, we are speaking with the students and giving them a general idea of what classes are going to look like, what classes they could potentially take. Their schedules aren't necessarily set in stone. So if a student is interested in playing a sport and has been conditioning with that sport team in the spring and over the summer, it's really important that they share that with the counselor so that we could potentially add them to the sports class and they're not taking PE. Other things that you may want to keep in mind as well is like the dual enrollment programs. So because all of our schools offer the dual enrollment programs, some of them aren't guaranteed, right? Like we encourage students to take dual enrollment and we may place them in those dual enrollment classes. But sometimes we may not. If a student is not there and we're not able to get in contact with them, we just put them in a basic schedule. So if your student is interested in taking a dual enrollment class, make sure they let the counselors know so that we can go over what classes typical ninth graders take. For us at John Muir, it's going to be the counseling classes where they'll learn about themselves, and then they'll also learn about, better study habits and how to become a better student so that they are successful their 4 years. So these are just some sample schedules. Blair and John Muir are on block schedules. I can't speak to how Blair's scheduling works. I would assume it's along the lines of what John Muir does. But we only offer 4 classes in a day. As you can see on the PowerPoint slide, it shows 8 classes for John Muir. The students will have 8 classes on their schedule. However, they'll only have 4 periods within their day. Perfect. I know somebody mentioned that they can explain the schedule. Maybe once I'm done with John Muir and PHS, you can just kind of hop in. That way families are aware. But at John Muir, there are 4 schedules. I mean, there are 4 periods in a day. They're about 90-minute blocks, give or take. Our Mondays are a little bit different because, as you can see, our 0 period is our seminar or like our homeroom period. That's not an everyday class. It only occurs on Monday. They do have an assigned homeroom or seminar teacher, and the seminar teacher does go over things like college and career readiness, career exploration, building up those soft skills, exposing them to the different academies and the careers that they could potentially pursue. And then, as you can see again, like John Muir, the students do have the potential of of taking a dual enrollment class during their 8 period schedule. I don't know if she wants to hop in to explain how Blair's block schedule works.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm
That's
also
okay.
negotiating with my middle schooler about his homework and what he has to do tonight. So Blair's block schedule works kind of like Muir's. We don't have a 0 period. Well, we have a 0 period, but we use it right now only for ASB. We have 8 classes total. 4 meet every Tuesday, Thursday, 4 meet every Wednesday, Friday. On Monday, all of the classes meet for a shortened schedule. There are at Blair in the high school. I'm not actually sure about ninth and 10th grade, but there are advisory periods or seminar periods. They're related to IB curriculum. They are not all at the same period. So it just depends on where that is in your schedule.
Yeah, and then PHS does offer, I know they just started offering the dual enrollment classes during their schedule. Someone's putting in the chat that they are offered in the afternoon. Do you know what period that happens to be after? I want to say it's like 4th period and on, but it
Next
could be wrong.
year, there will be courses offered during the school day with PCC. So that is what our principal's expertise is in, and he's in his first year right now. Currently, though, students at Pasadena High can take afternoon and evening classes on campus. But next year, that'll be during the day as well. So
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah, we don't have a block schedule. It's a 0 period. If you're in band or color guard, you do 0 period. So you come an hour early, and then they have an advisory for the first half an hour of every day.
Thank you, Dr. Allison. Thank you, Caitlin, for your help also.
Okay, so some differences. Each school site has their A through G counselor. Right now, that position is shared. So they do have one counselor or 2 counselors technically per 2 high schools. So just to keep in mind, the A through G, speaking from having that position previously, our focus is to ensure that our students are meeting the minimum requirements that are expected by the 4-year colleges and universities. Our goal is really to help the district increase their A through G completion rate amongst our students, and to really ensure that they are college ready or college and career ready. I am a big advocate on promoting, all aspects of post-secondary options, whether that's community college, whether that's a trade, military, working, right? Like making sure that every student has a plan so that they know what their next steps are for after high school. We also do assist, or the A through G counselors also do assist with credit recovery. One big thing that I really want to emphasize is that as counselors, whether it's A through G or school counselors, a lot of our communication goes to the students and the parents via email. So strongly encouraged your kids to check their email, like it's social media, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever the latest craze is, because sometimes our kiddos miss those emails, and a lot of the times they miss the credit recovery emails. So I understand that life happens for students and families, and sometimes they don't do so great, and they do need that opportunity for credit recovery. So please have them check their emails. And then we are experts, both A through G counselors and school counselors are experts in the UC and CSU systems. So we can help students in the future with the FAFSA application, which is for financial aid, as well as college applications. As far as the school counselors, we do a little bit of everything. I like to joke that we are the problem fixers for our school campuses, because we do not only academics, but we do social emotional, we do mental health. Like, we are all around, supporters and advocates for our students. We do help again with the A through G eligibility, right? Making sure they're on track to meet graduation requirements. We do go over what those graduation requirements are outside of the academics. So the 40 hours of community service, the senior capstone or presentation, or the senior defense that they have to do towards the end of the year. We also help with creating schedules, which is why we go to the middle schools to help set those up so that the transition is a little bit easier. And then we also maintain the graduation status. So we are meeting with students at John Muir. We do meet with the students at least twice a year, so once in the fall and once in the spring. Right now, just because of everything that's going on, it is a little bit different. Some of our counselors are meeting with students once and doing a lot of like big group check-ins, because we did lose a month, so it makes it a little more difficult to meet with students on a one-on-one basis. However, every counselor, whether it's at John Muir, PHS, Blair, or Marshall, has a calendar link or some way to get in contact with their school counselor via email, or a specific link, so that the student can make a one-on-one appointment. With that being said, some of the things that kind of overlap with both positions is that we do meet with students one-to-one. We support them academically, emotionally, socially, all of those great things. We are the link between parent, student, teacher, and everyone in between. So if you do have questions or you want to know something about your student, we are more than happy to set up those parent meetings, student meetings, teacher meetings, and we truly do support the student from beginning to end, from freshman year all the way up until senior year. And then for our ninth grade, so again, the students will meet with their school counselor. We do a review of transcripts. It's a little bit different in the sense that ninth graders, right, the eighth to transition to ninth, we don't really look at middle school grades. We like to think that it's a fresh start for them so that they can come to campus and be the student that they wanted to be in middle school, or continue to be the student that they were in middle school. So when we do review transcripts with our ninth graders, we're merely highlighting the important parts, right? Like the credit breakdown. What does that look like? How many credits do they really need to graduate? It's 220. How many community service hours? Where can they do those community service hours? Our meetings are a little bit different, and we do try to set up a 4-year academic plan. So we do try to meet and talk to them about what, their hopes and aspirations are for their freshman year going up until their senior year. We talk about things and hobbies that they're interested in, because sometimes some kiddos aren't really aware of what they want to do. They have a lot of hobbies and passions, but they're not sure what career field they want to do, or what college they might want to explore, or if they even want to go to college. So the ninth grade meetings are more of a connection for us. We want to build that relationship. We want to establish that this is a safe space that they can come to talk about different things amongst academic, social, emotional with their school counselor. This is what a typical, I believe this was from Blair, if I'm not mistaken, what their academic plan looks like. Students can view their academic plans on their Aries portal. So you can see kind of potentially what classes you'll have for the next school year, potentially for the next couple of school years, if you meet with your counselor and you plan that accordingly. And then elements of a 4-year plan, again, really talking to the students and exploring what they want to do after high school, so possible career choices. We also dive deep into like honors, APs, the dual enrollment, what all of that means for the students and how that affects their GPA and why it's important for them to do well in those classes. All counselors like to let students know that, C grades are what we're really aiming for, especially to meet the A through G eligibility, while D's are passing in high school. We always want our students to do better, right? And have higher grades than a D. But we do also explain that to them too, that sometimes, again, life happens and we understand that they may get a D or sometimes lower than a D. And that's where the credit recovery options come into play. And then we also do, again, the course scheduling. So really diving deep into what the next 4 years are going to look like and how they can track that, not only on the academic plan in areas, but also on their transcripts and how they can read those. So that by senior year, once they start applying to college applications, it's a little bit easier for them to upload their grades and the courses that they've taken. And then just the bigger picture in all. So again, really emphasizing the importance of meeting high school graduation requirements and A through G, because if you meet A through G, you're exceeding the high school graduation requirements, the college admissions requirements. So really going over what those are and what's expected of students once they start to apply to four-year universities or two-year universities, and then what life looks like beyond the classroom. So this is just a breakdown. It really makes it easy to differentiate between high school graduation and the A through G requirements. You can see that some of them overlap, right? Like the history credit for high school graduation, that's going to be your world history, your US history or ethnic studies, depending on the high school, and then your government and econ classes, whereas A through G, it only requires two, which is going to be your US history and your world history and sometimes government. With English, you're going to need 4 years across the board. With mathematics, it's going to be four. It's going to be three, but 4 years recommended. Most counselors will enroll them in the fourth year because we strongly believe that students should maintain their math skills. Once they transition into college, they are going to have to take their GEs, which are going to be, the history, English, math, science, the core classes. They will have to take those once they enter the college level. Science, it's going to be 3 years, so it's going to be a physical, a life, and then that third year for high school graduation requirement will be either or. So it could be a life, it could be a physical, as long as they meet the 3 years. The world language, this is where it differentiates for high school and A through G eligibility. The four-year universities do require a 2-year minimum, and it has to be the same foreign language. So sometimes I know kids take Mandarin in middle school, or they come from another district that offered German or French. PUSD only offers Spanish, and then ASL through dual enrollment, and then the Mandarin program at PHS. So that also may be something that you consider, because if your child is in the Mandarin program and then goes to a high school that doesn't offer Mandarin, it may be a little bit difficult for them to continue on with that. They do have the opportunity to enroll at PCC as a concurrent student to take the language if they need to. I currently have a student who took German from another high school and is going to enroll in the summer program at PCC. I'm not sure about that because I'm not a counselor at PHS, but maybe Dr. Allison has some information on that. And then the visual and performing arts, they need a year. It does need to be in the same art medium. So please keep that in mind. Sometimes kiddos take a semester of graphic design and then they take a semester of choir. While it fulfills the high school graduation requirement, they do need to have the same class for the full year for A through G eligibility. And then electives, it's going to be 50 credits for the high school side and one college prep elective. And that could come from a number of things for A through G eligibility. It could come from PCC. It could come from the extra years of math, science, or world language. And then for PE, it's only going to be on the high school side, and they do need 20 credits for that. And someone said, yes, they do offer French now at PHS. And then these are just other resources. So all campuses have college access plan. This is a really great program that works with ninth through 12th. With ninth through 12th graders, they start from beginning to end. So if a student doesn't know what they want to do or where they want to go to college, they'll work with them. If a student has an idea, they're going to prep them to tailor the classes, as well as extracurricular activities. They'll advise them on things like that to help them for that particular college. They also provide a number of workshops and even a junior year internship program. So it's really great. I highly recommend. They do offer services after school. It's typically for about an hour. I believe they're on John Muir's campus from 3:30 to 4:30, 2 days a week. And then community service partners, so things like PEF, PEN, Day One, local libraries, and more. All of those things are going to be great resources. Again, students should start thinking about where they want to do their volunteer hours, if they want to do internships. Internships are not always required. However, they are great opportunities for exposure. And if students are going for the medallion, especially at Muir and other high schools, they will need to complete 60 internship hours to earn that medallion at all high schools. So 60 need to come from, yeah. So 60 need to come from an internship, and then the rest can come from other opportunities. So that goes across for all high schools. The other things that campuses have are like programs like Upward Bound, VIPS, and PYD. There's a number of programs at each high school. I highly recommend that you check out their high school page so that you can see what other programs are being offered at each individual campus. And then on campus, all campuses have a wellness center. They have a college and career center. The wellness center is going to focus on mental health. The College and Career Center, again, is going to focus more on college and career exploration. There are a number of PUSD mental health services. Your counselors will have a list of those. And if not, you can always find them on the direct homepage for PUSD. And then our schools have the community assistant or community school senior advocates. Those are also great resources for students as well. And then again, we all have our academies, whether they're wall to wall or they are a couple and a few at the campuses. And then if you want to, I mean, if you can give us feedback, that would be great, so that we can improve our presentation for next year. I know there's been a couple of questions in the chat. If I can answer them, I will. Is it possible to take PCC courses for high school credit outside of the dual enrollment offerings? Yes, you can take it as a concurrent student. You can work with your designated dual enrollment counselor at the specific school site. For us, it's Mr. Munoz and Miss Diaz. I believe at PHS, it's Miss Cervantes. I'm not sure about Blair and Marshall. I think Marshall might be Miss, I know. Yeah, I'm not sure about Marshall and Blair. But yes, you can take it as a concurrent. It is a different application. So you do have to sign up regardless whether you're doing dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment. You do have to fill out an application at PCC or through PCC. They do ask you what type of student you will be. And then you can register for those classes. But I highly recommend talking to a counselor because they will have more insight as to the rigor of those courses. Like a ninth grader might be a little challenging for them to take psych off campus. I mean, they're more than welcome to, but psych is going to be a class that's going to be heavy on reading, writing, and research. Okay, somebody said at Blair they believe that you can talk to Miss Fonseca, who is the AP at Blair.
Thank you, Renee. We went through the slide rather quickly, and so I just want to make sure that we paused for a little bit. It was a lot of information, and I don't have a high schooler, so I can only imagine trying to, make sure that you gather all of that. So, what I will do is I will let Susan will jump on right now and kind of talk a little bit about Penn and Penn ambassadors. And then if anybody wants to jump in and unmute themselves and ask questions, please feel free to do that once Susan's all done.
Yeah, can you, yes, okay, so this is where I wanted to jump back. Is there one back from that? Okay, yes, all right. Thank you, Nancy. So, yeah, so Pasadena Education Network, PEN, is a independent nonprofit organization. It's mostly volunteer. It's mostly parents who have kids in the schools all throughout PUSD. So we have three, I think, parents from high school who have high school students here with us this evening, and you've already heard from Caitlin Wheeler and Dr. Allison Evans. I think Pablo, I'm not sure if Pablo Morales from Mura is on, but we really try to connect parents with other parents because a lot of times that's going to be a great resource to you as you're sort of navigating this with your own student for the first time. So I asked some of our parents to be here just to kind of share their perspectives, and maybe when we get to some of the questions, they've already kind of jumped in with information, so we may hear more from them as we get into the questions. But I think it's important to just sort of think about as your child is moving from middle school to high school, that you want to kind of think, just as when your child left elementary and went to middle school, there's sort of a shift in the way that they're sort of stepping into greater independence. You're still very much needed to make sure they stay on track and that they are supported in what they're doing, and that your expectations are going to help to guide them. But, again, just as it was from elementary to middle, from middle to high school, there's a greater, it becomes more important for your student to be able to advocate for him or herself, to start trying some different things and seeking out the kinds of opportunities that Ms. Cruz was mentioning before, to learn how to check their own email, for sure. So lots of things that some students, everybody's different. Your kid may already be doing this as a middle schooler, a lot of these things, but again, your role is to just sort of provide that as a parent, is to provide that support and encouragement, to really be curious and ask questions about what it is that's going on in their lives, to kind of be aware about the sorts of supports that are available to them at the school and in the community. And of course, keep an eye on that parent portal, checking grades, checking on attendance, making sure the school has correct contact information for you. And then reaching out for help, if you need to reach out to the counselor or a teacher. But more at high school, you're really encouraging your student to make that connection. And let's see. So I think I want to pause here and just ask our parents that we have from the high school if they have any observations about kind of what was important to them or what they realized when their student made the transition from middle school to high school, as far as how your role changed. And either of you, Dr. Evans or Caitlin, if you want to jump in.
I'll jump in. I would say, and just for clarification, I have a senior at Blair and I have a seventh grader as well, who is also at Blair. So I'm sort of in both of these phases right now of the looking back over the perspective and looking forward to high school too. I think that one thing that's a major transition for a lot of parents, and it starts in middle school, but I think it definitely accelerates in high school, is how much the parents aren't necessarily involved in the school. I think it's harder for parents to meet other parents. I think that, it's easy for parents to just never even go to campus because kids are much more able to get themselves to school often, either via public transportation or eventually, driving themselves. So I think that that's a big change. And I think you have to make more of an effort to sort of be included in the life of the campus than you did in definitely elementary school and also middle school. I would suggest getting involved in the parent volunteer groups as much as possible. Things like PTSA, school site council, ELC, all of those groups can help parents sort of have a much better understanding of what's going on at school and get a better knowledge of who some of the players are at school and in the administration. And also, I think that parent engagement at the school does make the kids more engaged as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm Allison. I've been in the PUSD since I had preschoolers. My son graduated from PHS in 2023, and my daughter is currently a junior at PHS. Um, I echo what Caitlin said. I think that parent involvement is so high in elementary school, and in middle school, my kids went to Sierra Madre Elementary and middle school. My son was the first class of that new school, and parent volunteerism drops off so big time, but it's still needed. And so in the middle school, I ran a service club for 6 years, and it was always hard for me to get the parents to volunteer, but the kids would do it, and they actually would get 3,500, collectively 3,500 hours of presidential service awards. It was awesome, but I could never get parent help. So one of the coolest ways I think to get to know your high school is by getting involved. I hadn't done too much PTSA prior to this year. But I've been heavily involved in many aspects of school site council, which is also cool. But I've noticed at PHS that like our theme this year was about the community, and we have a new principal. This is the third principal that I've been in contact with since starting at PHS. My son started right at the COVID year. And I've noticed that if your kids are involved in certain activities, then you're involved with those people. So my daughter does color guard. So there's the band app, and there's the band boosters, and there's the volleyball moms, and there's the CAMAD department that she's in. My son was in the math academy, which is why I wrote it on there. That's sort of a specialized academy. It is a little bit different. Renee didn't have it on the list, but it's a little different than the other academies of the high schools. That's probably why, because you do need to have a certain aptitude to get into that. And typically, kids who are in math academy in middle school are the ones who know about it. So if that makes sense, but I have experience there too. But I just was going to say that I think it can be isolating if your child isn't participating in anything and you're not getting to know parents. And so one of the things about having a PTSA is trying to bring people together. So it's been a pretty fun year for us to do. I've grabbed 11 of my closest friends and also recruited from new people in the district. So we have 12 people on our executive board, and we've been doing some cool things. Someone asked about Marshall. I wrote in the chat, though, that if there are any questions about Marshall that you have and you want to type them in with your email, I'll get you the answer. But one of you mentioned that your kid's at Marshall now, and Lori, the principal there, is amazing and also would always be willing to answer your questions. But anyway, I echo Caitlin that being involved it also encourages involvement with your kids. And also the high schools do need help. You just have to get creative. You might not be in a classroom, helicoptering your kids in third grade, but the high school really does need help. And it's really refreshing. I got my level badge back where you have fingerprints, and it was sort of a pre-pandemic thing. And there are a lot of opportunities to help. And so that's it for now.
Yeah, jumping in and echoing what Allison said, I think that another thing that's a big difference about high school versus middle school or elementary school is in middle school and elementary school, there are parent volunteer opportunities that are school wide. And those exist in high school as well, but there's also a lot of parent volunteer opportunities that are specific to the they're specific to the activities that your kid is involved in. So for example, both of my children do theater at Blair, which is called Ovations, and I'm on the board of the Blair Ovations parent support group. There's a music boosters club, there's an athletic boosters club. So if you aren't feeling like PTSA meetings or school site council doesn't work with your schedule, there are opportunities to get involved that are very specific to your students' interests. And I would just encourage everyone to find out about those.
I'm noticing thank you. I am noticing there are a lot of questions coming up in the chat. So I think we will step back for a moment and let you start taking some of those questions. And then if parents, either of you, Caitlin or Allison, have something to jump in with in response, that'd be great.
There was just a question about the App Academy, though, that any of the academies, with the exception of Math Academy, are open to all students.
I know there were a few questions about PE in the summer, whether they can take that, or a sport in the summer. So they do have to be part of the high school team in order to earn that PE credit. And most of the high school sports will take place during the academic school year. Each one has a designated season, for that. It's important that your student is part of the sport class if the high school offers it. Some schools may not have coaches or supervision, so therefore they can't offer that particular class. Just for an example, like track and field, if they don't have a coach on campus, they can't offer that as a class because there's no one to supervise that PE period. However, they can still earn credit even if there's not a class. But just keep that in mind. Most of them will have like baseball, basketball, softball, cheer even has one, volleyball, tennis. Most of those do have classes during the school schedule, like during the day, and they can enroll in those and earn the high school credit that way. I think there were a few questions about Marshall. I apologize. I'm not well versed in Marshall. My experience has been at Blair, it's been at Muir, and it's been at PHS. So I do agree if we can get, people perspectives from Marshall, that would be great. But you can always make an appointment with their counselors. They're all available. You just have to reach out to them via email and they'll let you know what day and time works best for them. But they will have the knowledge to answer some of the more specific questions that you have about their specific high school, their academies, and the programs that they offer. I know somebody wanted to swing back to the middle school dates. It looks like it's on the presentation. If you can take a screenshot, a picture of it, that would be great. We will be sending out emails. All high schools will be sending out emails with the registration packet to the middle schools. Some of them may be virtual, or electronic. Some of them may be paper copies. So just keep that in mind. Ask your middle schooler if they got anything from the high schools because their middle school counselors will be the one distributing that information. How do you apply for PCC summer programs? So there was a flyer that just went out to the high schools, and I believe it is also being sent down to the middle schools. Although the middle school offerings are a little bit different as to what PCC is going to offer, but you can talk to your school counselors. There's going to be a QR code that's on that flyer, and there's an interest form that's linked to that QR code. They can go ahead and fill that information out and then take PCC classes that way. So this one says Blair has an athletic period. Now they're moving around. Blair, I think it said something like Blair has an athletic period for all sports, but students can participate in sports and receive credit even if the period does not fit into their school schedule. Yeah, I know there's for like ninth graders, I believe it's a little bit tricky for them to earn that. At least for at Muir, they have to have that PE class. So just keep that in mind as well. And then some,
Renee, I'm
go
sorry, I
ahead.
didn't mean to interrupt.
No, no,
I'm
no,
so
go ahead.
sorry. Oh, okay.
No,
Now
no,
I was
no.
gonna say I'm gonna take it back to the top of the chat because I know we had questions at the top. So Michelle asked, is it possible to take PCC courses for high school credit outside of the dual enrollment offerings?
Yeah, they can do it concurrently. I touched upon it a little bit, but reach out to the designated counselor at your high school that is in charge of the dual enrollment program because they can help you enroll as a concurrent. There's a few more forms that you have to fill out and sign and have parent signature on. The application for both dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment is done specifically through PCC, so they do actually have to enroll as a PCC student. And it does give them the option to identify as a high school student who's taking the dual enrollment program or the concurrent program.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Jessica, I know you asked, your question was regarding when high school counselors would be going to middle school for the students' schedules or classes. We kind of discussed it, but I wanted to give you an opportunity in case you had any follow-up questions. Doesn't sound like it. And then you went over the summer as well. I'm gonna just so it says Celia said, "Hi, I'm transitioning from private to public. When would we get a chance to pick classes?"
So they do have to reach out to the counselors or the high schools because we don't go to the private schools. We go to our middle school feeders. You will have to set up an individual appointment. So look on their homepage for their emails, shoot them an email, and then they can meet with you and go over the registration packet and potentially what the classes are. You will have to enter into a lottery unless you're in our school zones. So also keep that in mind. I don't have much information on what that lottery looks like. So parents, if you want to chime in on that, but you will enter a lottery if you are not within the like the
The
home
neighborhood
zone.
school.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you.
Celia, would you like to unmute yourself and ask any follow-up questions?
Hi. No, that's pretty much it. I actually live in the PHS vicinity.
Okay, great. So
But
that's your home school.
it is, and then it's a transition from a LA school, so I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited at the same time.
I
Awesome. Well,
would highly
welcome.
recommend, yeah, I would highly recommend doing a school tour because they will show you the campus, they'll walk you through it. Again, you'll meet students, you may even pop into a couple of classes.
Yes, we have one
And
tomorrow at PHS
oh, perfect.
actually.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you'll get a sense of the campus and what the school has to offer.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, this is Crazy Michaela Block. Um, I just put in the chat Dr. Tulumian's cell. She says you can text her evenings, anytime. She was the principal, Elliot. I adored her. She said there's room at Marshall. I had a kiddo that went through PHS and went from the public service to Beta. Amazing. Loved being a bulldog. I have a eighth grader that's going to Muir. So my name is Michaela Block on all the things. 3 lunches a night on Instagram. If you guys ever want to talk coffee, cocktails, I've had a high schooler. I have a middle schooler. You know what? This is just fun. It's fabulous. But PUSD is phenomenal. My house burned down. PUSD took care of us. I want to go to all the schools. I'll just go to all of them.
Thank you, Michaela. That was so sweet. Thank you. Thank you for adding her phone number in the chat. Michelle, I was going to say if you want to provide your email address in the chat, we'll take note of it and then we can circle back with you also. Or your phone. You can private chat us for your phone number, but or your email address, and then we'd be happy to connect you with someone directly at Marshall if you didn't want to text or message Dr. or Miss Salumian directly. Let's
And
see.
there was a couple of other questions. So somebody said, can you start, do you have to start dual enrollment as a ninth grader or can you start in 10th? You could
Great.
start at any time. There is no, start date that's mandatory for students. We like to just expose them. So maybe they're not ready to take a dual enrollment class their ninth grade year. However, they build up the skills, right? That they avoid procrastination, all the things that are going to make them successful. And they can definitely enroll. Just keep in mind, though, the student does have to advocate for that, right? They do have to tell their counselors that they want to take a dual enrollment course because it's not automatic that we enroll the student. It's just an option for them. So if they are looking to pursue that, then they would need to let the counselor know so it's on their radar and we could adjust their schedule accordingly. Somebody
Awesome.
asked about internships. Generally, they are junior year. I'm sure you can start earlier if you want to, but most internships, at least that I'm familiar with, take place. It's like the summer of their 10th grade year going into junior year. Sometimes it's the summer of their junior year going into their senior year. So it really just depends. All high schools have a college and career advisor that specifically oversees the internship opportunities. There's a number of them. They do often correlate with the academy. If they are in an academy, they will correlate with that specific field. And
Sorry, I'm going
then
down the list. Would anybody like to unmute themselves to be able to ask a question?
Can I just pop in again and just correct a couple of things about the Blair programs that were said? Because
Sure.
There was just a couple things. First of all, the Spanish dual language immersion program in Blair High School is a continuation of the DLIP program from the district. So if you started in San Rafael or Longfellow or Jackson, you continued at Blair or OEB. I think those are the two middle schools that offer dual language. Then the Spanish dual language continues through 10th grade. That's the high school option for that. Blair also has an international academy, which is for specifically students who are new to the US, and it's intended to um, get them into the US education system and catch them up. And that's a different thing than the Spanish dual language, although obviously they work well together. And then finally, there's three IB programs at Blair. One is the middle years program, which is every single student from 6th through 10th grade. It's a curriculum that is basically, I would say it's skill-based and student directed. And then in the high school, there's the Health Careers Academy, which is a career academy similar to what they offer at PHS or Muir, but it's IB, which means it's separately accredited by the International Baccalaureate Organization. And we have the diploma program, which is 11th and 12th grade only. It's not just for international universities, although they are familiar with it. It's a really sort of strong and rigorous college preparation program. If your student doesn't want to do what's called full IB, Blair students can take individual IB classes. It's like taking an AP course. So that's just a little overview of the programs at Blair. And then we have Armenian Academy, which is a language academy. And I think that's it. There's a lot. Small school, lots of programs.
Thank you. Parents, is there anyone that would like to unmute themselves and ask a question?
I see Jackie asked a question about advice you would give a parent to help support a smooth transition. I think that's a really tough question. Be involved. And in terms of when I say that, I'm not speaking about like PTA or the boosters, or I'm saying directly in knowing what your kid is doing in class and homework. I would say that the high schools are so good at giving alarm bells when there are issues. You're going to get more than one. So sometimes no news can be good news, but I would encourage one thing that I really think is important is, you know, the whole goal of parenting is that we're trying to make our kids independent so that they can live without us in the world. And at some point, we have to sort of let their hands go and encourage them to. So as much as I want to email teachers at times, I I really do. I don't. And I encourage my daughter to do that directly. And only on a couple of occasions have I intervened in some way. But I would just say that you to pay attention. And there's so many ways for you to be able to pay attention. So like my daughter doesn't know, but I get all of the Aries every time anything is in Aries, whether it's an announcement in any of our classes, I get that information. And you check that off when you go through Aries and you know their notifications. But sometimes it can be too much information. Sometimes it's a lot. But I would just stay cognizant of homework and making sure they're doing the homework. And I don't know, I think that all of our high schools have so much to offer the kids. And I always feel like they're all diverse and there's always a spot for everybody. So that's what I like about all of the high schools really in our district is that there's a place for everybody and there's just so many cool opportunities. So that's another thing is I'd pay attention to what the schools are offering because so often parents don't know what's happening when there are lots of great workshops and information sessions and things happening all of the time. So I would just stay in the know, make sure you're following on all the social media, make sure that you're getting your principals messages each week, make sure you're getting the newsletters, you know, those kinds of things, because the high school communicates, all of them, they communicate with the parents, but the parents aren't always listening. But as far as the experiences that I've had and friends that I've had go to all the other schools, communication isn't the issue, but we have to sort of pay attention to it on our end, and it can be a little overwhelming. So that's my advice would be is stay in tune, make sure they're completing their work, check in with their progress reports, ask them
Read
how
the emails the school sends you because they can
like
be
they're
long, but
detailed.
often have very important information.
Yeah, we just for all the years I've been around PHS, they hadn't had an ADA friendly newsletter that was accessible to all, and that has changed this year. I have been pushing for, I happen to be a psychologist, but I also have been pushing for that. So now you can like instead of having to feel compelled to read the whole email now because it's ADA compliant, you can do this at Marshall and probably all the other ones. But let's say you're like, what was up with that dance? You can put it into your search and actually find it now. So I would just say stay in tune with what's going on in the high school. Just because they're in high school, again, it doesn't mean that you can't be involved. It doesn't mean there's not a place and space for you to be involved at the school, whether it's through your kids' individual activities or through school site council or PTA or what have you. But that's what I would do is stay in tune because truly the high schools communicate. Every time I hear someone say, I haven't heard anything, well, then either they don't have it hooked up right because I can't tell you how many different avenues I get in just 1 week of communication. But again, if your kid isn't doing well, you're going to know. They're going to tell you. They're really good about that because the whole goal of all of our high schools is retention and graduation rates, so anyway, that's my take is just really be aware and conscious and be, but again, also try to help, I guess, for me at least, try to help facilitate your kids to become independent and be advocates for themselves. Like, so for example, my daughter doesn't like the front row, but she knows that she should sit in the front row. And she came home one day after high school on the first day and said, I asked to be in the front row. I didn't want to. And I felt really stoked that she did that because she was advocating for herself. And also all the counselors are there to advocate for you. And that's the thing, like you can go into Renee, I'm sure, office and Mr. Tran. And I don't know, in all the years that I've been in the district and at PHS, I've always found it to be a really pleasant experience with a bunch of people that have a lot of knowledge, often are alumni. So I'm a huge advocate for our public school system for all of our schools. But I would just, stay aware.
Can
I
I
would
say
also say,
something?
oh, sorry.
It's just crazy, Michaela. Again, I just wanted to remind you all, you guys, I love these parents that are here, but just remember there's a huge, huge change. I initially felt lost, and I did all of these things in elementary and middle school. I was such a huge PTA person. I'm like, don't you know who I am? Like, nobody knows me here at the high school, but you do have to make yourself present. You do have to find your avenue in there. You do have to join the PTSA, and they don't seek you out. You have to seek them out. And that's the big difference between middle school and elementary school, I feel.
We try. You'll see us at registration days. We have a table with ASB.
Oh,
We're,
yes.
we're trying to get everybody to come hang out with us. But I think that's important. And I think, Michaela, your point is that, I can't speak for my predecessors, but to me, it is a cool way, an easy way for you to get involved in the community is hanging out with PTSA. And you get to be in the know, and we have association meetings, and we have really cool people coming and talking. And so I agree. I agree with you. But you'll see you'll see your PTA at all the high schools. You can find them.
I'd also say there's a few programs in the district that are for students that are across all of the high schools. I think that there's a tendency for parents and students to sort of get into this rivalry that is not always productive. I mean, sports are sports, but it can be a little bit destructive. But I think that there are some programs that people don't always know about. There is a student think tank that is all for high schools in the district. I think it also includes CIS and Rosebud as well. So, and then there are opportunities to be student representatives on the Board of Education. And then the PUSD Arts does the All-Star musicals every other year. My daughter has done those, and she is also in think tank, and she has amazing friendships that she's developed with students at other high schools. And I think that can be really valuable as well, because it gives them sort of more perspective on the district as a whole. And also, I think it gives them just sort of more empathy in their high school experience.
One more last thing I want to say too about high school versus elementary and middle. I wrote in here because someone was asking about Marshall, and one of my friends has a kid at both high schools. And what she expressed was before joining the PTSA, she's the secretary. was that she didn't feel connected to the high school at all. And that this year, with the involvement in PTSA, she feels that connection. And so, again, if your kid is just figuring out kind of their places and spaces of where they want to be, I really do urge you to find your PTSA. I know Tia at Muir, she and I became friends when we learned how to be PTSA presidents together. And we share a lot of ideas because it's not the same as, hay bales in elementary school. So we share ideas and cool events, but I do encourage you to seek us out, especially at this moment. At least we're 12 strong, and we're really active, and we're trying to be it's inclusive, and we have all of our meetings at school. In the fall, we're going to do a bulldog bingo with our alumni association. So, I mean, it's a good place to start, but I always felt like volleyball, band, all the different other things, that's how I made the friends that I made. But I like this global group as well, because then you get to meet all kinds of different people.
Thank you. Thank you both for all your input. Susan, was there anything that you would like to add?
I think Susan may have been having trouble. I don't see her on the call anymore.
She's here, but I think she's
I
muted.
see.
Oh.
She's working on unmuting herself. If it works.
Mhm.
There she
Okay,
goes.
sorry about that, guys. My internet disappeared on me, and I had to go try to log back onto my phone. I just put in the chat that Penn is going to be teaming up with a College Access Plan, CAP, at the end of April to do a kind of a variation on this, which is not so much just about the transition to high school, but really about how to navigate high school with college as the destination in mind. So it'll be a little bit more in depth about what the high school journey looks like in terms of making sure that your child is ready for college and has the option and opportunity to do college after high school. And I would just otherwise echo some of the things that Caitlin and Allison have said about getting involved. I think for my kids who are now 25 and almost 30, at high school, like their being involved really made a huge difference from them. And there are so many things that your kids can do, extracurricular and, service clubs and just activities that's what's really going to connect them to the school. And that's where they're going to make friends and just sort of feel a connection, I think, to the school community. And everybody's different, so it will be a very different thing for everyone. But I know, for example, with my older daughter, she really struggled, I think, socially in middle school, and part of that was just the age that she was, But I think also when she started high school, she wanted a fresh start and she wanted to try something completely new, and she started running cross country, and she'd never done anything like that. And it really helped her to sort of like feel a little bit more connected to the community. So I think sometimes one of the things that's helpful as a parent in looking at all the communications is your child may or may not be aware of all the opportunities they have to get involved. And you might spot something in a newsletter or an email or something that they missed. And, just really based on who they are, encourage them to take advantage of and try different things that will connect them with other folks at their high school. So that's my only other 2 cents.
And also too, I agree. And also like the club days, and when, there's over like 80 clubs at PHS, and I'm sure that's representative of all the high schools, but they have club rush days, which I thought was so cool. Like I think of that as a college thing. And my daughter's like, oh no, we were rushing clubs. So all the clubs are out in the quad during lunch and what have you. And that's such a cool way, because really there is a spot for everybody. You name the club, it exists. I mean, truly, there's so many. And then if not, you can also start one. But so that's the kind of stuff to just sort of continue to encourage your kid, especially if they're having some trouble. So I just wanted to echo that.
Awesome. Oh, go ahead, Jasmine.
Oh, no worries. I was just going to say thank you to everyone for sticking around and hanging out with us. And hopefully, each and every one of you learned something or gained some valuable information that you can help apply to your students' future. And thank you to Susan and our Penn ambassadors and Nancy and our counselor, Miss Renee. We appreciate it. To anyone still on the call, if you do have a brief moment, we have a very quick 3-question survey that allows us to give direct feedback to ourselves and our director and really pinpoint and gear these workshops directly towards you, and just do a better job. If you have any questions or want any other information, our roles and titles and emails are on the screen. The Penn website is linked directly to this presentation, which you can find via our website at pusd.us/family. And there you will find all of our past workshops, this workshop, and future workshops, and dates for all events in the future. Again, if you have a moment, we very appreciate it if you can give us that feedback, and have a wonderful night, everyone.